In most Christian schools, drug and alcohol use would result in suspension or expulsion, whatever you call it, at their school. And understandably so, we get that. But what else can we do? How can a school continue to support and to help in a situation when that arises? What would you say?
Sure, sure. And that can be a very tough decision. And I can speak from personal experience on that. Having had a family member that was in a small Christian school in another state, and that exact kind of circumstance. And it was very, very difficult because the administrator knew our family very well and was trying to figure out what in the world do we do. And that was back in the 1990s that was going on. And so it really was even a little more, not taboo to talk about it, but just kind of not as much awareness around it and everything like that. So that can be difficult. So people who experience substance use, like we've said, it can become a very isolating struggle that they have. There's a lot of shame associated with it, a lot of guilt associated with it, and especially if they're in any sort of a religious or specifically Christian background, the sin of that, and so builds, and like I said, the shame and the guilt and the hiding from that. So you might have a couple different circumstances that happen with that. Is you may find out that one of your students has done this. You may have a parent that is worried that their student might be engaged in this, and they come to you as the school administrator and say, I think there might be something wrong with Jimmy. Don't kick him out. We're struggling with this at home. He needs to stay in this setting because that's the only thing keeping him safe. And so that is a very, very difficult question. Couple of things that are so important with that is we want to be of help as best we can. As best we can, we need to help this family because we want those families or that student to be able to come and talk to us, to tell us what they're struggling with, so that we can be of help with them. So the language that we use with them when they come and talk to us is going to be very important because we can be kind, we can be compassionate, we can be loving with our words, but we can also be judgmental. We can be shaming. We can be dismissive with the words that we use. So it's very, very important that how we respond in this circumstance is what can really pull a person to us and allow us to help them, or it can push them away. And so the Christian community, we can provide such a beautiful environment. We know what forgiveness is. We know what restoration to our good Father. We know what restoration is to the Lord. And so when we have the ability to allow for forgiveness, to allow for restoration on these human relationships as well, it's so important. It's so important. It is living out what has been spiritually done for us, living that out in the physical realm. So, but there are some times that there has to be that firm boundary of expulsion. There sometimes has to be that firm boundary with suspension and different things like that. Sometimes there is just no other option, depending on circumstances, on what has happened, and different things like that, who all is impacted. Because it may be that it's just the student themselves that's impacted. It may be that student has brought others in on that. And so each circumstance is going to be very different. But in all circumstances, we can have compassion and we can have kindness. And so something else that's really important as a part of this, in the event that you do have to dismiss a student from school, don't allow that family to become abandoned, because that mom and dad are going to share a tremendous amount of shame in that. They are going to feel guilt in that, whether or not someone says, If they had disciplined him when he was younger, he would have never done that. They're going to feel that, and they're going to think that even if nothing is ever verbalized or any sort of judgment passed on to them, they will still feel that. So it's important for you to be able to offer, as an administrator, to be able to offer your time to listen to them. If they come to you and say, hey, I think this might be going on, give them that time and listen to them. Intentionally pray with that family. The powerful prayer of a friend, of a confidant, of a trusted individual that would say prayers over our children. As a mom, I pray over my children, but when I hear someone else pray over my child, it knits me to that person in a different way, to know that they would have a heart for my child as well, that they would want the soul of my child to be for all eternity with the Father, those sorts of things. So as best you can, also offer them help within the community. So if you know that they're a part of a local church that is well equipped to handle that, encourage them to connect with their pastor or say, can I call your pastor? Be a united front with that family so that mom and dad don't feel like they're alone. Knowing the resources in your community, or if you have someone on staff. So say in the event that you say, okay, I think this is just going to be suspension rather than expulsion, we're going to be able to keep Jimmy in our school after a short time frame. If you have knowledgeable staff that can counsel that young person, allow them to do that. Because I think most school administrators would say that there are times that our students would be much more open with a staff member than they might be with their own mother or father, depending on what's going on. And I will say too, there are family members, there's parents that would say, you guys handle them. I got nothing for them. If they're going to be sneaky in my home, if they're going to be sinful in my home, I've got nothing for them. And you can try and fix them, but I'm going to wash my hands of them. Or you may have a situation where you have a split family and you may have one parent that absolutely is going to come from a biblical approach and a loving and kind approach. And you may have a family member that doesn't even care that their kid is in a Christian school and is going to have a very contrary, very secular view of the circumstance and say, well, that's just what kids do. What'd you think was going to happen and that sort of thing. So you want to, knowing your families and who's in your school, help point them in the right direction for what kind of counseling would be best for them. Again, whether it's their church, it might not be. Some families, they go to a church that has wonderful preaching and wonderful singing and nothing in the way of additional counsel outside of a Sunday morning. So being aware of what kind of church they go to and how you can support them, but really truly continuing to talk with them, to love with them, to know that they are not on their own in all of this, is going to be a huge support for them. And again, in them not feeling so heavy in that shame and in that guilt.
Enjoyed this short clip? That was just a sneak peek into a full episode on the Teacher Edition podcast. We are passionate about supporting Christian educators like you. Looking for more inspiration and practical strategies you could use today? Subscribe now wherever you get your podcasts. Brought to you by BJU Press.